had way too much coffee. Let's just be honest. It was good though. So I have a really good friend named Mike Wiggins, who's the chairman of this reservation in northern Wisconsin. Bad River Reservation. We're all Anishinaabe people from our area. And he's fighting this big mine. The Pinocchio mines coming into their territory, just going to trash their watershed and trash Lake Superior, just for iron, taconite. But one day he's talking to me and he says, seems like people don't want to hang around another 1,000 years. You know, and that's what I really think about. You know, we want to hang around a while, you know, then we have to kind of begin making some changes. That's the reality. I have the privilege of living and working on my reservation where, you know, my great-great-great-greats riced the same lakes and danced at the same arbors, and pretty much at this point we're working on eating the same food that they all eat. You know, and then I wander around Indian country and get to see a lot of other Native people, Indigenous communities, and where they're at, and it's similar to what a lot of other, you know, people are looking at. But, you know, if I was to look at kind of where we're at in our history and where we need to go, you know, I'd say things that you likely know, which is most of your ancestors neither brought land nor food with them when they came here. Didn't have pretty much a clue on how to make things happen over here. That's just the way it was, right? So we were busy doing that 8,000 varieties of corn, 800 varieties of potatoes, all that great Asema tobacco, you know, before everybody got all messed up on that. And, you know, the tomatoes came from over here, the chocolate and avocados, not bad, nothing to snuff at. You know, so we're hanging out being busy, although we didn't get much credit for it, let's be honest. And so, you know, we're doing this, and, you know, things have not gone well for any of us in the end. I mean, a couple hundred years later, we managed to get stuff from places we don't even know where it comes from, and we're not feeling so good. So a lot of the work that we're doing in my community is really posed around this, you know, recognition and honoring of what the Creator gave us. You know, the Creator gave us these, you know, where we live, the Creator gave us wild rice. It grows on lakes and rivers. You know, the first time I saw this rice farmer from Thailand came and he cried. He cried because he said, "Where's your paddies?" I said, "Where's your rice fields?" And they spend their whole life in a rice field. And we in the north, you just take care of your lake and you get rice every year. The Creator gave you this food. You know, this wild rice. Our old varieties, it turns out that they rock in nutrition, you know. Twice the protein, half the calories of market varieties. They're like much higher in antioxidants and they're much higher in B vitamins. They're very, very nutritious, these old things. So that is, you know, what we're working on, you know, in our community. When I first moved back, when I got out of college in '81, I'm actually an economist by training. I heard some dissing of that earlier, but I'm like, you know, I'm looking at this bigger picture, obviously. And I did this study on our reservation, and I figured out that, you know, we have every statistic you don't want to have. Like half our people are below the poverty level, and you have, like, you know, high rates of every problem, including a third of our people with diabetes. Our arrest rate's through the roof, you know. And I figured out that half our people, we have more people employed in job training programs than employed. This is what a dysfunctional snapshot of an economy looks like, you know? So keep training those people for jobs that don't exist, and keep telling them that they don't know who they are and what they're doing, and that they're unqualified for anything, and things are not gonna work out, you know, over the long haul. So in my community, what we've been doing is really you know, recovering who we are. Recovering who we are. Turns out, I walked out of the sugar bush on Saturday. I didn't do it yesterday, but Saturday morning I went in our maple syrup, and it's still winter in the north, in case any of you came from the north, but it's still winter. And our maple syrup is just running. And it turns out we're the best maple syrupers in the world. I mean, we know how to do that for thousands and thousands of years. We're the best ricers in the world. And, you know, we grew these corn varieties that we're the northernmost corn growers in the world, my people. We push corn 100 miles north of Winnipeg. So our work is really in how you restore that. Because we could spend our time figuring out how to make more jobs, make more money, and bring in more full-time employment to our community, or we could figure out how to cut the hemorrhage of buying food from elsewhere and have something that's local. So you all know that to do that is not necessarily what everybody had in their plan for you. We had to fight Anheuser-Busch and a lot of other guys on wild rice because we think that wild rice should come from a lake and not a paddy. Wild should mean something. And it should also not mean genetically engineered. Pretty much on everything, because that's the way it is. You know, when you're who we are, we're land-based people, and we don't have an exit plan. You know, we aren't going anywhere else. There's no new town or frontier to go to. We're going to be there, you know, and so we spend a lot of time to just try to keep that there. And then about 20 years ago, it was about 30 years ago, my father said to me, he's passed on, he said, Winona, you're a really, really smart young woman, but I don't want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. I was thinking, well, I'm pretty smart here, getting my advanced degrees and this. And I was like, so I wasn't so smart because it took me about 10 years to start growing corn. And now we grow these varieties that are 500, 600 years old. And when they had the crop failure last year, 40% drought, our corn was still there. When those big winds came through, they blew down Monsanto's fields, but our corn was still there. You know, and I started with this much, you know, we got fields now. And our communities are all growing these, you know, and they're frost resistant and drought resistant and wind resistant, and they're tough guys. They're tough guys. They just grow real short too, you know. But I don't know how to quantify it, you know, it's like what Woody said, you know, it doesn't count in someone's money figure. You know, to us it counts that we eat something that's a spiritual food. To us it counts that our people are healthier, and when we farm, we remember who we are, and we restore our relationship with our relatives that have roots, or our relatives that have, you know, wings, or our relatives that have paws. It counts to us that we got a shot at reducing diabetes in my community, you know, which a third of people got diabetes. And the food is the medicine for that. You know, the broader implications, that's a snapshot of a lot of tribal communities and a snapshot of a lot of other communities too. But for us, you know, our work is in this question of how, instead of outsourcing a quarter of our money on food and a quarter of our money on energy and pretty much a quarter of our money on healthcare. So you have a local economy which is consistently drained. And you can never keep wealth there. The question is how you restore it so you quit hemorrhaging. Now, you know, one of the challenges I face, I just told you our story, but I don't know how to count that in the figure of the regular financing bottom line, triple bottom line or anything. You know, but it is really an example of what we have to do everywhere. And that transition, you all know, because that's what you're talking about, is what's going to transform this economy and restore our shot at living for, you know, maybe another 1,000 years. It's doing that, you know, and doing it in a mindful and thoughtful way. And, you know, having the ability to, in our case, capitalize it, but also we don't know how to market, just be honest. We have no idea how to market. Like, I'm the marketing person, I think, I don't know, you know, it's like, we have to sell this, we cannot eat it all. Millions of pounds of wild rice, you know, like so much corn now. It's like we eat so much, we need to sell some of this. So we're working on that, you know. But so just, you know, what I want to say in closing is, you know, it's an honor to be here with y'all. And then, you know, in our language, we have this phrase, Minopamanaziwan, which means the good life. I'm sure it's like Buddhist. I'm sure that's what they're doing in Bhutan. You know, it is everything, but I think what we are all after at some level. And there's this piece that, you know, you are all involved with on how we get there from where we are. But it is, you know, it's what we're striving for in our community. But thanks.
Whose idea was it that I had to go to Winona? I always feel a sense of really guilt when I listen to Winona speak. So I just want to honor your work So I was invited because I'm the former Wall Street guy here. And before you start throwing tomatoes or rice patties, I have to say very quickly, I left in 2001. So I can't be held responsible for what happened between then and now. And I actually first met Woody, I wandered into Investor Circle after I left Wall Street, probably back around 2004 or so. And he quickly escorted me up to the front of the room and implicitly said, hey, we got a live one here. And so it's really great to be back in Woody's community. I've been off sort of cultivating and digging my own dirt for a few years, and so this is really a privilege to be here at Slow Money. My work actually is focused in two areas. I'm what's now called an impact investor, although I hate that term. I think one thing we need to know is that all investment has impact, and the idea of Wall Street turning impact investment into an asset class is not the right direction. Just leave it at that. We also need to recognize that if there's limits to growth, there are limits to investment, since investment drives growth. And that's a real brain twister to get your head around in any kind of economic system, whether it's capitalist or communist or socialist or fiduciist. But my work really is focused on, as a practitioner on investment, but also as a theorist, I guess. I founded something called Capital Institute, which is a small nonprofit, think tank, for lack of a better term. Woody referred to my involvement with New Economics Institute, and I am on the board there, but my primary day job, so to speak, is at Capital Institute, and I welcome you to come check out our website, capitalinstitute.org. And I write some hopefully provocative blogs there, and we are involved in a number of longer-term projects. But I'd like to start by talking about one of the investment projects. Our belief is, or my belief is, and our work is very much grounded in the idea that practice informs theory and not the other way around. And I'm really privileged to be a partner and an investor in an enterprise called Grasslands, which is a partnership with the Savory Institute. And Daniela Howell and Trey are here today, somewhere in the audience if you want to raise your hands, but Daniela is going to be talking tomorrow. And if you're interested, well, let me tell you a little bit about it. Essentially, what Alan Savory figured out many, many years ago is that you can essentially mimic the natural behavior of herds of wild animals using domesticated cattle. And so, as a way to reverse desertification, if we could shift the land management practice on the land to more mimic how the wild animals moved, we could actually reverse the decline of the grasslands, which are the second largest carbon sink on the planet, and turn them back into the regenerative source or sink of carbon that they're meant to be. And this has really global and macro implications. Just a 1% improvement in the soil organic matter of the world's grasslands could take 100 parts per million of carbon out of the atmosphere. So that's sort of game-changing potential. Now, of course, that involves changing land management practice on 4 billion hectares of land. That's no trivial challenge. But along with an investment partner, Larry Lunt, we've created a company that manages ranches as a business, and then we've acquired some land in Montana and South Dakota to become essentially the first customer of the ranching business. And by the way, these investments were all done with no stated or even intended quote-unquote exit.